Right, welcome to Stellify, and I'm absolutely honoured to welcome the fierce and committed voice in the fight for our freedom, Fiona Rose Diamond. Fiona has been instrumental in organising and galvanising public resistance during the COVID era, and is now leading the charge against the insidious encroachment of digital ID in the UK. Fiona has a brand new platform, which is massnoncompliance.com, which is already a rallying point for those who refuse to quietly surrender their autonomy. And this Saturday, Fiona is going to be spearheading a major protest, so that's the 18th of October in London, against forced digital identity systems. But what is important is to dig into the dangers of digital ID, how it connects to surveillance, social control, and biometric tracking, and most importantly, what each of us can do to resist this overreach before it becomes irreversible. So welcome, Fiona. I was honoured to have you on the channel. How are you doing?
Always makes me smile when people say honoured. Thanks, Anne. That was a great introduction, actually. What was it? All the F's, fierce, and feisty's there as well, actually. Very feisty.
Feisty is there. Yeah, feisty is there. And I think that's important, in terms of what we're up against, because sometimes feisty brings that courage forward as well when things are irritating you and there's a niggling, like the overreach of government itself is like in COVID period at times. Like if you don't have a bit of feistiness inside you, then maybe you're just going to shrink like a shrinking violet. So that obviously that was a big part of your recent journey, wasn't it? Really, I mean, that's how most people I would expect have got to know the name Fiona Rose Diamond. I remember in the early period seeing the protest in London, because obviously I'm based up north and I had my pub up north, but I remember seeing Trafalgar Square when all that kicked off, and I think it was the German doctor that got arrested, and I remember seeing him being put in the back of the van, and I'm sure that you were involved in trying to get him back out.
Yeah, well, there was 3 that summer. There was 3 big protests in Trafalgar Square, and obviously at the beginning it actually started earlier, like even before we were locked down. So March of 2020, that's when people started speaking out and getting together, and it built and built and built, and more of us kind of met each other. And I was arrested in May of 2020, as were a few other people, so naturally we connected because we were sent to, I think it was Charing Cross police station. Was it Holborn? I can't remember the first one I was sent to. And then obviously we were all released like around about the same time. So I was bumping into other people being released at like 3-4 o'clock in the morning, which they always do, because it's, most of the time, because it makes it really difficult for you to get home. Like on a Sunday, they'll release you after midnight, if they can. But yeah, so there was a few of us that had connected then. And then obviously August 2020 came about, which was just individuals like in Piers Corbyn's office, leading up to it. And actually, I was talking about this earlier, and I should have said, Dr. Mohammed Adil, who was the first NHS surgeon to speak up, he was instrumental in that first rally, which you wouldn't associate an NHS surgeon with organisation of a rally, but he was the one that actually pulled most of the speakers together. And there was a few other people involved in it. And again, these unsung heroes that worked really hard for a few months to pull that together. Obviously, we all got better at it. I went and did, my own thing, because me, Anne, I'm kind of like let's say lone wolf, lone lion, but I do prefer to work. I don't say alone, because I've got an amazing on the day team. I mean, you're one of them for this weekend. So it's not like I do everything. Yeah. So on the day, it's amazing because people are so, willing to help and to be a part of it as well. Because I do hope it's going to be, what word did you use to describe it? I do hope we're going to see this build up again, the same momentum that we had in 2020, because I feel like we're in 2020 again. The feelings that I've had over the last few months have been very similar to the feelings I had at the beginning, like this frustration and this anger, but also knowing now we've learned a lot of lessons. So it's like you kind of know what actions you might be able to take, and that actually your pushback works. We can affect change. And I know some people are more skeptical about that than I am, but I'm so positive and very optimistic about this. Despite facing probably darker times than we did during 2020 for a couple of years. I mean, I had the best time. I get nostalgic about it, Anne. I sit there and go, oh my God, it was amazing. It's like, yeah, but I got arrested like 6 times. Yeah, but you know, it was like everyone came together, it was unity, and I'm getting sort of strip searched in a police cell and beaten black and blue. But my memory of this amazing movement is more nostalgia, and like I just will never forget the unity that I've never seen anything like it in my life. The people from all walks of life, all ages, family. Remember 101-year-old, was his name Ron?
Yeah,
and different faiths and different races. And when we had a memorial for the injured and bereaved, a COVID jab injured and bereaved outside Parliament, we had, you know, people of all faiths, and the Sikhs, you know, prayed in their way. The unity was incredible. And we have an opportunity to bring that back, that unity. I'm not trying to, you know, reignite what we once had, because 2020 to 22, the lockdown freedom movement was history. Like, it was an amazing moment in history, and we were fighting something tangible, lockdowns, mandates, you know, everything they were throwing at us. And we fought kind of out of it. And then when things kind of slowly started to go back to normal, people were like, oh, well, I can go back to work, or, you know, most people now work from home. I mean, the amount of people now that after that now work from home in their general kind of jobs. But yeah, people kind of went back to normal a little bit and didn't see what we're facing. And I think this is where we're at now, is because, well, we said we're coming. We've talked about Agenda 2030 for the last almost 6 years, and this has always been part of the plan to roll out this surveillance system state. You know,
yeah. Obviously, they wanted it back in 2020. I think when we were in the event at Birmingham the other week, I mentioned that I saw it in Sicily. I actually saw the green card in operation. It wasn't pleasant to witness, and obviously that's kind of where they want to go again now, you know. But this is why the spirit that you have, and the spirit of many others, is ignited when Keir Starmer did that silly little announcement regarding the Brit card. And obviously we'll get into that as well, what the difference is between the Brit card and digital ID. But when he announced that, it was almost, I remember saying to my Mrs. Lou, I woke up in the morning and says, oh, for fuck's sake, I'm back in the game. And because I didn't want to be really back in the game, you know. I was enjoying doing my Stellify channel, going down. I like doing the esoteric stuff and consciousness and things like that. And I'm like, oh, for Christ's sake, I'm going to have to get back in this now. I'm going to have to gather people again. I'm getting my Truth of Tuesday gathering back in again. You know,
I read that. People are quite excited.
They are. They're looking forward. But people are scared. This is the thing. So people are scared. People are nervous about the future. People are nervous about what's on the doorstep. So unity, like you mentioned, it was great in 2020, and we had that. It's very, very important that we have unity now. Very important.
We're there again. We are there again, facing something, like I say, it's very tangible. It's right there. It's, you know, there's people sort of splintered off and built communities and did their own thing, which is amazing. But things like yellow boards continued out of 2020, and Stand in the Park, and people still are together. And I kept going. You know, I in 23, 22, I launched the Truth Be Told campaign. I kept going. So I was protesting in London. I haven't stopped. So yeah, I kept up with that. But we're back with that feeling, and with something to right in front of us that we know that we need to fight. We know that we need to stand up now. And I don't want people to feel like it is dark. What we're facing is dark if we don't fight back, because we can't sit back and first, you know, let somebody else have to deal with it for us. You know, that attitude of, oh, well, you know, that group's doing this, and you've got Big Brother Watch doing that, and you've got you know, these people doing that. I think that attitude of thinking that somebody else is going to fight for you, we need to discard that again. And because I think that was there a little bit in 2020. There was people that were too fearful to go to the protest. They were, you know, they had the same beliefs as us, but they didn't want to come out and sort of show it. They didn't want to be ostracized by their family. Now, this is a slightly different issue, because I think most of the UK can agree we don't want digital ID. We don't want a surveillance state. This isn't something, it's not as divisive, but the time and the timing of these announcements and this Brit card proposal, and we'll talk about that because it's nonsense, but the timing of it is when the country and the UK actually is completely divided politically, and they definitely choose when they announce and try and push these things on us, because they see that we're as a people like fractured right now because of the labels that they've given us. So, whether it be left or right and all the other groups of people that you've got now and all the other issues, they don't want us standing together, and they definitely pick their time like it's perfect. They've announced this and say, the state of the country and the people, they're all at, each other's throats because of this political divide. But I think that's, again, we've got the opportunity with this to say that, digital ID doesn't care how you vote or who you pray to or what color your skin is. It doesn't care. It's coming for every single one of us. And first of all, it was announced to deal with mass illegal migration, and now they're following the convenience, anti-fraud, convenience, you can do all this, you can do all that, but how quickly it's being, they're saying what we already know, or what some of us already know. None of what they're saying in Parliament shocking. Some people see it and think, I can't believe they're now saying that I can, have my qualifications on there, and I can do this and that on with this amazing digital ID. We've known that it's an all-encompassing digital app that it's not just ID. I think that's the thing, is it's not just for identification and obviously convenience to prove who you are. That's what they're trying to shape it as. But now what they're talking about with, student applications, school applications, jobs, renting, all this stuff, it's not just an identification card. It's digitizing everything about you, everything. So I'm not going to ramble on too much, but I'll let you ask me questions, because I do tend to go.
No, it's fine. It's fine, because you're right what you're saying. And the thing is the convenience, and I saw that on your Telegram channel earlier on, where the MP is talking about how, you no longer have to get your electric bill to go and get a library card or things like that. Well, you know what? What's so difficult about just doing what we always did, go to the post office? Why does it have to be so convenient? But the thing is, people are so busy in their world, in their lives, and we're so addicted to our phones. They knew the timing would have to be around this point, especially with the youth as well. Most kids these days are pretty much born with a phone in the hand. My daughter's 19 now, and she's had a phone since she was, because when me and her mum divorced when she was like 6-7 years of age. So she had a phone. It wasn't a smartphone, but she had a phone, so she could call one of us from whichever house she was at. So they're used to having these devices in the hands, sadly. We're the generation that remembers what it was like before all this trap started.
Yeah, but I think that, again, every single thing has been engineered. Like they've had this. The perpetrators don't want to go massively too deep and too shadowy. But it's given that I'm talking to you, and I'll explain why I've done things the way I've done things with the website and the campaign right now. But us knowing the shadowy organizations that are even behind the globalists that we do talk about, that are sort of running this show, we know that they want to usher in this control based on two of the biggest threats that they consider that humans would be most scared of, and that would be climate change and pandemics. Yeah, so they picked this, I don't know, 100 years ago. Like, what are people most scared of? Okay, we'll use those two things, make up all this panic and fear around it. But if they've done that and they've had this plan for however long, decades at least, and longer, certainly when it comes to the technocratic control, they've planned this, they've engineered this, so we are dependent upon technology. We're dependent upon a connection that's fucking, oh my gosh, sorry, I'm sorry
to swear on that.
Okay. I always think people are going to get, if you upload to like YouTube, and people will get strikes, and my language, but they've engineered it so we're dependent upon this technology. They've made it so we're used to biometrics. They've been slowly introducing biometrics for years and years, and our phones, the Face ID, which I don't have, the fingerprint ID to open your phone, I've got a code, right? I heard that Snapchat prior to 2020 had a mask filter. So there was a mask filter, and so children that were on Snapchat, say children, young, the youth, I've never had Snapchat in my life, but I know that my little sisters had it at some point, and there was a mask filter for years before 2020. So why is that?
Normalization.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so there's there's lots of different mask filters, but I'm talking specifically about what they make
Yes,
force
I know what
people
you
to
mean,
wear
yeah.
during the so I think that this has all been entirely engineered, get us completely dependent on this technology, make us think that it makes connection more possible, when actually it's disconnection entirely from humans, like between each other. Like we can instantly, we're posting stuff online, we can interact, and people in 5,000 miles away can comment on something in real time, and you can respond to their comment. And I mean, I know because we've had phones and whatever for as long as we were born, but I didn't get a mobile phone. It was a Motorola with a big antenna. And, when I was 15, that was my first phone, and I bought it for £10 from my friend. And you could only store 10 text messages. And then I got a Nokia 3310 and played Snake and things advanced. But it was literally to stay in touch, like with your parents, or text your friends, like because you had to top up credit. You did, it wasn't. I didn't have contracts and stuff back then. We were like, we spent our £5 pocket money to get a bit of credit, and I was really frugal with mine, and that's when short text messages, because they charge you for 100 words, don't they?
Right. Yeah, that's
so
right.
all that stuff I remember, but I think I just wish I could have paused, or we could sort of go back and pause at some point. But I think we've always had, they have always had technology with the intention to make us reliant upon these things, and then it would be easier to talk about this convenience that everybody so desperately wants. Why do we want everything instantly? And that's they've bred this in us, because that's not how I was raised. And it's amazing the change in 30 years.
It's frightening. The world is so different. It's so different. I mean, obviously, Schwab himself said, didn't he, the eve of 2020, that this is a great reset and life is not going to go back to normal. And like you mentioned earlier on about people tried to get back to normal after, say, 2022, and that lull period. I think they've used that psychologically to allow us to just feel a bit relaxed, and then they've come at us in 25. I always thought 24 and 25, I said, we're going to be interesting years, and this year has proved to be a very interesting year.
Yeah,
because they've got 2030 as a deadline in a way. They've marked that.
I think they have done a lot over the last couple of years. I think they started talking about the mass illegal migration issue, say 2022 is ending. Now this has been something that's been ongoing for such a long time, but not so amplified in the mainstream media. And they've used it to instill fear, put people against each other, and say, you've got one side saying it's a problem, one side saying it's not. And then you've got other people over here going, it's all engineered, guys. This is all engineered for what's going on, this problem reaction solution. They want you to be divided. And like, when you're looking from the outside, you can see what's going on, but they've really ramped that up. So when that finished, it's like they didn't speak about immigration at all during 2020 and 2022. It just wasn't a thing. No. And then suddenly it's just not being talked about, right? So then maybe people had that false sense that there was not really anything going on. But again, if you're aware of the agenda, then you'd know that doesn't stop. The machine is still whirring constantly, and they create that divide and conquer. If you remember the riots last summer that were happening, and lots of people getting sent to prison for Facebook, social media posts, Facebook, whatever. Are you even using inappropriate emojis and offending somebody else that got some anxiety about reading that somebody disagreed with mass illegal migration? And it was that again was something that was engineered. Arrest those people, make examples of people, and get people so fearful that they don't post what they think on social media, when at the end of the day, I don't care if you're offended. I think this whole thing about being offended or someone having anxiety because of something that you've written, like it's this, what they're creating obviously is entirely intentional. And of course it is. I mean, I said stuff that I think, oh gosh, I mean, some stuff slips out of my mouth, and I'm like, I just think, is someone going to sort of screen record that and send it to the police and say that I caused them anxiety? Because I think, there's some people are just snowflakes. Like, so they've created this.
They've done that, exactly. I remember I was working at a college. So I'm going back a few years now, and I was there for 11 years. But I remember when sort of they were really starting to push the bully kind of element, you know about offence, like you can be offended, and kids have got offended at anything now. You can't say anything now without offend. That's why comedy became a problem in 2020. You know, where Fawlty Towers was getting flagged up for maybe having potential harm within its language, or Little Britain, and Matt Lucas came out and apologized, which was ludicrous, you know, for his role in Little Britain. So all this is engineered, all of it, to create a softer nation.
Well, children in school can be cats, for goodness sake. So it's madness. Like, so I mean, that ties in, I suppose, to sort of that agenda as well, like making children feel so uncomfortable with the way that they are, like seeding that doubt. Because, you know, the plan with, in my opinion, on that side of things is to break down the traditional family, you know, break down any kind of tradition and identity, make people feel so completely confused, whether it be you're telling them that they were born in the wrong body, or like even politically, like people don't know what side they should be on. We'll just discard the labels because they're given and plastered upon us. And I think we should just completely reject them, rip them off and say, no more. Because I think we should also be able to say this. I can disagree. I've got lots of opinions that are my opinions. And usually my opinions are based on, I don't usually hold opinions unless I've actually looked at something and I think, right, I know enough about that to actually feel strongly about this and to express that opinion. There's not really much of that anymore, is there? Like, there's people that have opinions about stuff that have like, well, what do you know? What books have you read? Did you just read that, you know, Sun headline that this is that way, and that suddenly becomes your opinion? Like by default, it's that people are being spoon fed, and they've got it as they've got people used to that. But this whole divide, and they've done it in so many different ways. But I think there's an opportunity here to bring it back. Like I said, digital ID doesn't care about how you vote, who you pray to, or what color your skin is. It does not care. Rich or poor, doesn't matter.
No,
so we need to take this opportunity and seize it.
We absolutely do. You mentioned about lessons as well when you were doing your marches and your protests back in the time. So what lessons do you think you learned back in then to approach this new campaign? Because it is a campaign, isn't it? It's not just a march. So where are you heading with this? What's your thoughts?
Well, I think, this might get a little bit sensitive, because I think, you know, you've seen some of the stuff that I've suffered on social media. I am like 100%, I do this and I live the way that I live, which isn't that well, you know, a bit about my personal situation. I do this because I 100% care for the future of humanity, for children, for us all. I see where we're going if we don't fight. And I self-sacrifice and had self-sacrifice so much to the extent where my life was becoming worse and worse and worse, along with my mental health. And that sort of changed for me in 2022. But I think I've noticed, and I can't not say it because you say what lessons have been learned, so I'm just going to be honest, is that not everybody thinks the same as me, not everybody feels the same as me, not everybody's motivated by the same goals as me. My goal is I'm in service to humanity and not to self. And I think over time I'd identified a lot of people who I think were more, they cared more about how many views they got on their, you know, TikTok or what social media, and there wasn't really a care there. And then there's this sort of people, you know, pulling stunts just to go viral. And I just thought you know, I've had quite a few videos that have gone viral because things have just happened, like in a pub where a guy abused me for not wearing a mask in 2021, or
I remember that.
In the supermarket. And so, you know, naturally we kind of got our films out and started filming when stuff like that happened. We needed to document history. That's what that was about, was documenting the truth of what we suffered. But I think that one lesson learned was not everybody has the same goals and intentions and heart, I think, as me. And that's not to say that, you know, it's bad people. It's just that I learned that my care and my dedication was quite different to other people's. And again, I'm not being critical. This is why, again, I tend to work on my own, because I have a vision. I've learned lessons regards to logistics and things, just about the days, just about, you know, what we should do at a protest, what we should do at a rally, like, you know, thinking about having people speak, for example, and is it the right time to have a like some kind of educational rally on it? And well, no, not really. The people are angry. We need to protest. So it's knowing what to do when, and getting the feeling of the people. And I think that's something like over time you've kind of learned, you know, responses that you might get when you start posting things on social media. And with the response to the petition, I think that day I was like, right, we're going to protest. This is just a proper protest, right? Rather than even thinking about getting a big screen and having speeches. I think that's amazing. I think there's a time for it. But I think right now, people would like to express their frustration. I think the best way to do that is a protest. But I mean, I've learned probably more about myself in the last 5.5 years than I've ever learned in my entire life. And I've also learned how to campaign. I think the most relevant thing would be the fact that I know how to campaign. I know how we onboard and wake up more people, because my campaigns are never, ever built for the people who are already awake, ever. Even the educational protests we did in Trafalgar Square with the doctors and the scientists in 2020, it was for the people, yes, to bring them together, but also the thousands and thousands of people that are just walking by. The reason you get sound and get it amplified, not necessarily for the crowd, it's so all the people can hear what's being said, including the police. We're educating them as well. So I think people have their own perceptions of why things are done without asking the organizer why they're doing them. And it was big thing in Truth Be Told. I spent 4 months planning the Truth Be Told. Was meant to be a 1-month campaign, and I launched it in October of 22, and it was the 1 month in January that we actually did, and we carried on because it was so successful. And I got a lot of stick from people who are awake, who said, why are you using the word vaccine? It's not a vaccine. I know that, but is it you that I'm trying to convince of anything? No, I'm trying to change the public perception. My campaigns are geared towards changing the public perception, reaching as many of the masses as we can, while still being truthful and in a way brutal, because I'm not sugarcoating anything anymore. And I did a lot with Truth Be Told. I sugarcoated a lot, even myself. I self-censored, but for the sake of other people. And I that's something I've learned, not doing that anymore at all. The truth is the truth, and it's the truth, and that's all that matters. So campaign wise, again, with mass non-compliance, I think people are more aware of more. I don't think anybody wants digital ID. So it's the slightly easier one than the jab, COVID jab, injured and bereaved campaign, because that was still 2022. That was still hard to talk about. Nobody wanted to talk about it. And we shifted the public perception, and we forced the mainstream media to start talking about it, because we didn't leave it alone. And we were present, and we were there. It was in Rolling Stone magazine, even though, all of the jab, injured and bereaved were called anti-vaxxers as well, which is insane. But with this one, is the very similar aim, in that it's aimed at people who don't quite know what's going on. It also provides information to people who do know what's going on, but maybe haven't done, any sort of research into certain organizations and NGOs and the bankrollers of all this. So that is there, but this is to show people that, for example, I've gone into some of the legislation and sort of translated so people can understand what it really means, because who reads legislation? I read the Coronavirus Act, and that was tough enough, and that took me weeks to go, like, I can't get my head around it. I still hate it. Now I'm a law student, I still can't stand reading legislation because it's just like code. It's like they don't want you to understand it. There's a difference between reading and understanding. So I'm trying to provide people with the receipts and the information that they can go, and as well as the original documents, look at them yourselves. I'm trying with this to push people to be in control of their own knowledge and empower themselves and arm themselves with the knowledge, with the receipts, but go and do it, go and read it. I'm not spoon feeding like I did campaigning at mass vaccination centers to try and persuade people to not get jabbed by telling them it would be safer to wait. We're going in there with the truth, the facts of what this is. Nobody wants it, and these are the reasons why we don't want it, because we don't have the time. We don't have another 5 years. We don't. They're planned to have what they want in place, like Agenda 2030 is rolling. The machine is whirring, like I say. But they wanted, for example, we know we've pushed back. The World Economic Forum have admitted it themselves in a paper they published in 2024, that they are behind in their progress that they need to control us, specifically with central bank digital currency, because of the campaigns that people ran to keep cash, and our general movement and the free people who maintain, they want to keep cash. So we all know the dangers if we lose cash. So we use cash more than we don't. I'm sure you do as well, much as I do. But because of those campaigns, because of that human pushback, we are delayed by 2 years in implementing CBDC. They wanted to have it by 2025. So we have that human pushback has worked. And that's specifically, that's from the World Economic Forum admitting that, oh God, we're slightly behind and we haven't achieved this. And that is for control. The minute that they legalize cash, like they did in India, which is what they will do, will be, that central bank digital currency is programmable, and it will be used as a tool on what you spend, where you can spend it, how you can spend it, or what time you can spend it, and restrict on the, everything. So they're behind on that, and that's great. And, protests in general, like I've learned, it was momentum. It wasn't one protest that achieved anything. We'd campaigned, for example, about the passports, the vaccine passports in 2021. We started campaigning at the beginning of that year. And it was a gradual momentum. Like, I kept going for the year. There was another group that did a couple of protests that year as well and kept going, and we're talking about the passports as well. And it was just the tipping point that we got to, because the numbers got so big. We sent such a good message, and it was, people were standing shoulder to shoulder, that in 2021 we managed to overturn that. Slightly different one, which was probably more on the protest than anything else, was the NHS jab mandates. Because yes, we'd campaigned, but the healthcare workers had already been sacked. They'd already lost their jobs because they refused a jab. And the NHS one, very, very short sort of campaign, like focused on NHS jab mandates. And it was the protest that in January of 2021, January 22, because they were up and down the country, because it was worldwide demonstrations. So I built, with all the other organizers all across the country, this group of people that would come out on the same day across the UK and the rest of the world. So we focused on the jab mandates, and about 6 of the locations offered a platform to NHS 100K via a girl that I actually worked with. She was my admin. So I organized that protest and offered NHS 100K a platform in order to send their message. And they were even reluctant to throw their uniforms over number 10. They said, no, we can't do that. Well, you'll have to get people to do it. I said, people will be more than happy to do it. It's so absolutely, but that's what we have to do. Like, we have to send a message. You have to send a visual message, especially when the media's there. And that was what was featured in the newspapers. And that was what was talked about in Parliament. And 9 days later, the mandate was overturned. So it's not just one event that's going to make something happen. This is going to be, like I say, it's a sustained campaign. So the reason I've made this information hub, this campaign hub with the leaflets and the infographics and the stickers and just the information and the fact vault and the architects page with, you can get to know who's behind this. And I'm constantly adding to that. But Anne, it's just me building this website and doing the research. So I've only got, and obviously the resist guide on there, which is 100 ways for people to act now and push back against a surveillance state. And even I don't agree with some of the recommendations that I've put there, because I personally wouldn't do them, but other people take different actions and use them as ideas. So writing to your MP, Anne, okay? Sorry, I don't do that. I'd probably get arrested for the contents of the letter that I would send to an MP. So I don't do it, because I can't politely.
You'll offend somebody.
I would. They'd be very offended. It wouldn't be a good idea. And I do encourage people to sign the petitions, because it demonstrates the sentiment of the public. It demonstrates where we're at. It keeps a public record. So all these letters to all these MPs, people will keep a record of. And I think there's so many different things that people can do from today to start pushing back. And one of those things, again, is opting out of the biometrics. Stop using them. Take the Face ID off your phone. Take the finger, whatever, off your phone, the thumbprint, or however people do it. Anyway, stop using the supermarkets with the self-checkout. Stop using the supermarkets that have got the CCTV with facial recognition, right? And if you do use them, write to them after you've been in and ask them to provide you with the CCTV they've captured of you, right? And just inundate them with requests Absolutely. Like that, because they have to provide it to you. But it's being rolled out in so many different kinds of ways. And obviously cash is a major part of it. Removing, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. And regarding perception, because you mentioned perception a few times, which is so important, because obviously during 2020, we felt like we were very much up against it, because people were frightened of a virus, and obviously people were falling ill over various other protocols and this, that, and the other that was happening. But it was very difficult to break the spell of that, and we would have all lost friends and family in terms of relationship, because of the argument that we would have had, because we could see through things. So perception's really critical. I remember having conversations with some of my former regulars at the pub. You know, I remember sitting down with them before they went and they decided to have the jab. You know, and I was like, well, I remember saying to this guy, why are you having it? So, well, it's been a while now, and I want to go on holiday. You know, so that perception again for digital ID is another challenge I find, where maybe people, this is where what you're doing is really important, because it's educating people of what is actually this is about. This is not about a digital identification. It really isn't. This is about control, and how we get that message to people that you know, the convenience of having this digital ID just to go to Benidorm for a few drinks in the sun is going to enslave your children and your grandchildren. And generations to come, that humanity will likely never be the same again. So this is a challenge. And how do you see that? How do you see us reaching that? I mean, we obviously, with the process is key, and your website is great. We'll go through that in a bit. But this is you know, we still have a lot of sleepy people in a way. And that's not an offensive term. It's like people just are so busy in their lives. They want to switch Coronation Street on at night when they get home. They want to have a glass of wine. They want to put their feet up. They want to go to sleep. They're stressed out to the max. They're not going to see what we're talking about on the news. They're not going to pick it up in the Daily Mail.
Well, that's exactly what they've bred, isn't it? They've made society the way that it is. They've indoctrinated people. They've made people think that you've got to slave away. You know, I'm not saying not to work, because I equally don't think that people should, you know, be able to live a certain type of life unless they're going to kind of work hard for it, unless you want to go and build a cabin and live off grid and actually truly be self-sustainable and not rely on anyone for anything. But, you know, that's where I don't agree, where people think that they should be able to have their TV and electricity and a house and not pay their rent in it. You know, it's like, there's a fine line there for me. But they've got people, so they think they have to slave away. You know, they call midlife, like, what's midlife technically? It's like 55 or 60. Who lives until they're 110? Do you know what I mean? Midlife. I'm not being. We're at it right now. I'm 40. So I'm
50, so I passed it.
Well, yes, unfortunately, because I hope you live until you're 100 if you're, you know, fit and healthy and you want to. And
I hope so.
My point is, like, when do people get their pensions now? 65, and they're upping it, and they've made people. They just make you so dependent upon the system, and obviously the system depends upon you, though, right? To continue in that way. So I'm not telling people not to go to work, whatever. If you enjoy your job, especially, do. But they've got people, we're exhausted. There's people on 0 hours contracts doing 90 hours a week. You know, you've got people on 40-hour week contracts that still do 90 hours, because if they don't do those 90 hours, they'll get fired and they'll get passed over for somebody else. That was like my job in hospitality, was exactly that. If I didn't opt out of the 40 hours, I was on a very shit salary, and I was working, you know, twice as much, if not more, than, you know, the other senior people. And they're like, oh, don't worry, you'll get here one day. I'm not going to do that. That's not what I want to do, you know. But they've got people to that state where they're exhausted and placid, and they poison us with food and alcohol and everything you can think of. And that's how I stayed sober, because I shifted the perception of how I looked at it. It's a spiritual thing for me now. I understand they're trying to pacify me. They're trying to, you know, mute me. And take away my drive and my brain. You know, I want it functioning and working. And, you know, I do believe in sort of, getting attacked by certain things, but they've poisoned us in every which way possible, kept us as little drones, you know, running around. It's gotten worse and worse and worse. Children are being indoctrinated in schools, and have probably probably for a very long time, but it's on another level now. The last 20 years has been getting worse and worse. And in the last few, the schooling, the education system has been poisoning children, poisoning their minds, you know. So they've created what people are living in, that little loop and then we just live and we die. You know, it's that mindset that people are in. However, we were in 2020, 14, 15 people, 10 people, whatever, in April of 2020. May of 2020, 150 people at Hyde Park, just through conversation and speaking and connecting and people waking up to it. By, you know, a year later, it took 18 months to build up to 1.2 million people on the streets or something. I have faith in people. I really do have faith in people, and everybody's got a different tipping point. For some people, it was being injured by the COVID jab. For some people, it was losing a loved one to the COVID jab. For some people, it was losing their business. For some people, it was missing their cancer treatment. There's lots of different things for different people that made them go, I've had enough of this. Something's going on here. And no one can say that the government's honest or ever actually has been. But now, of all times, even the 9 million people that voted for Labour, they must be sat there stewing. At least half of them must be sat there now suddenly realizing, like, everything he's saying is against everything he's done, every decision he's made. Nothing's in the manifesto. Yeah, but what? He's a WEF puppet. So I have more faith that we can get people to see what's going on. 100% I do, because we've come such a long way. It's been nearly 6 years. It's exhausting. But I have faith in people, and the way that I'm doing it is very different. There's still people out there that still want to go and have, you know, in-depth conversations with people for hours and hours every week, you know, doing outreach and handing out, you know, the light paper or whatever. And maybe even that's why I've made the leaflet for people. You go and hand it out. But I have been so consistent. And like I say, I've not taken more than 3 weeks out of this. And even in those 3 weeks, after I had, you know, a bad experience, tried to take my life, I took 3 weeks off from the lowest point in my life in this fight, because of the relentless targeting and the bullying and the hate that got me to such a place that I did try and take my own life. And then 3 weeks later, I announced Truth Be Told campaign, and I just fired on. So I am have that power within me, certainly, but I don't have the same patience. I have the same care for humanity and the same drive, but I won't accept the same excuses that people used to take the jab to accept digital ID. I won't accept that excuse, and because I won't accept it, am I the best person to be going out and trying to have lovely conversations with people on the street? Probably not, because you get very frustrated. But the same excuses will be used. 100% they will, because it was 99% about convenience. It wasn't because they were scared of this killer disease. You know, it was because they wanted to go on holiday. They wanted to go to a festival. They wanted access and they wanted convenience. And it worked. And it worked. It really did work. And the same thing will happen again. The immigration thing didn't work when he's announced the Brit card. Okay, the Brit card is solely based on dealing with mass illegal migration. They've changed now. To the Parliament discussions today, yesterday, they've changed now. It's all about convenience. It's all about school applications and banking and tracking this and tracing that, and how convenient it will be to be able to prove your identity when you go to a shop. And it's now completely expanded to the reality of what we know it is. And there's even darker things to come. But it's all about, usually, safety on the back of ramping up the fear, mass illegal migration, and then the convenience that what they are offering as the solution will offer you. And because people want everything yesterday, they might think it's a good thing. However, I get a sense from social media in everything, and I don't think 80% of the population, and that's a minimum, do not want digital ID. Especially if they know what it means. And there's more and more people waking up to knowing what it means, because Keir Starmer's overplaying his hand. Again, I'm very suspicious about his announcement. I don't trust it. The Brit card proposal is not a proposal to deal with mass. They didn't sit in a room and think, how can we deal with mass illegal migration? We cannot look at the Brit card and think that's a serious thing. I've done a translation on it, and I've told people, don't be distracted by the Brit card, because the Brit card was just one little token on your phone. That's what they are. They're tokens that you're going to be given as a person, like a credential. Like you get 12 tokens. It might be your driving license, your passport, your right to work, your Brit card if it was there. So the Brit card, I think, is a bit of a red herring, to be honest. And his announcements being so overly confident that you will have it and it will be mandatory. And then you've got everyone screaming that mandatory is not law, knowing that the legislation's is coming. It's there. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's coming. So this I get the whole mandatory thing, and we had that discussion, didn't we, on Sunday? And Carly Spell was bang on about this stuff, but we don't have the time. And I think that's why I want to have that conversation with her, isn't it? So I know I need to be speaking about what she's speaking about for education, but education takes time. And yeah, it's just really important that people do see the reality of what it is. So that is explained on the website. It's explained on the leaflet. Back to basics. What's digital ID? Because it's not just a Brit card, and it's already there de facto. One login is digital ID. It's been there since 2021 when it was launched. What a time to launch it. They did a lot, didn't they, during that time? Like all the 5G towers and everything. It's like, I don't remember. There's been people that have inadvertently used one login when signing up to interact with the state, get a new passport, register as a teacher, register as a social worker, get your driving license, sign on for benefits. People directed towards one login through those processes. So 11 million people have verified their identity with one login, and one login is the base infrastructure for the Gov UK wallet to sit on top of that. And the Brit card was one little token that would sit inside the Gov UK wallet, right? So the Gov UK wallet would have hosted the Brit card, which would have been your national ID card to prove your right to work and rent, one token. Now, all the other things that would be on your Gov wallet would be everything else about your life, your education, your convictions, your restrictions, your banking, everything, your taxes, your mortgage payment, everything would be on there as different tokens for different things. So the one login here, people need to understand what that is. Don't be signing up for it. If you've got a one login account, try and get rid of it. There's nothing in the law yet that says you must have a one login account to access anything. There's alternatives. You can still go to the post office for your passport and your driving license. The alternatives are still there, but they're making it difficult, and they're encouraging one login, because one login is the gate. It is the gate. That's how they're rolling out the Companies House directorship. So they have to register their digital verification via one login. So it all comes back to one login, but one login, like I say, is the base, it's the infrastructure, and it's just layer and layer and layer. And the Brit card, if they say next week or 2 weeks, oh, we're going to scrap the Brit card, we know that you don't like it, and people are going to celebrate, and then they'll start offering alternatives like leaving the ECHR, and everyone will go, oh yeah, that we can deal with the migrants and leave the ECHR, that shackles us to Europe or the European Union because we're in Europe. But people will believe these things. And that's why the education is so important. So, because I'm only one person, I am working with, the wonderful Claire Wills Harrison, the lawyer, has helped me with, informed consent, for example. She's written a full piece on why informed consent matters. And, we're going to do a couple of other bits, but she's helped me a little bit with, a few things on the website. So I think, the education.
Up, shall we?
Oh, yeah, cool. Sorry, I'm rambling on.
No, not at all. I think it's great to go through, so people can see how they can find the information that you've got there, and obviously how they can obviously donate as well and help the cause, because that's going to be really important.
Oh, that's another thing as well, the donation thing and Stripe.
Oh because they've gone full disclosure on.
But for anyone watching that's got Buy Me a Coffee, if you've already got a Buy Me a Coffee account, Buy Me a Coffee would have already set you up with a Stripe Express account. So you don't have to verify your digital. You don't have to verify yourself on Stripe to get your Buy Me a Coffee. So Buy Me a Coffee and the Stripe Express that they use with the account you've already set up, if you've already got it in situ, that should remain and be fine. Stripe, if you've got a Stripe account separately and they're asking for digital verification, you don't need to do that to get your Buy Me a Coffee. I was looking at all this last night because I thought, I've got money sat there. I'm not going to verify my ID with Stripe. So anyone setting up a new account will have that. I'm pretty sure that most people have got Stripe, depending on how you've set your Stripe up, have verified or sent a picture of their passport and proof of their address. That's what they ask for. But anyway, that was just on that, because I've been looking into that. So everyone that's currently got a Buy Me a Coffee should be absolutely fine. Uploading digital ID to Stripe shouldn't affect anything to do with Buy Me a Coffee, because it's technically two sort of separate systems. So I just want to tell people that. But the website,
So your website, tell me, because obviously you built this yourself.
Yeah.
And you put all this together, There's an awful lot of information here, and I find one of the most important areas here for people is the resist guide. I must admit, I think this is an excellent part of the website where you've literally got, how many is it, 100?
There's 100 ways, and more are going to be added. And I think when people are reading this, I know that not every suggestion is going to apply to everyone or appeal to everyone, because everybody has their own way. And some people will want to send the foils off to the various proposed vendors. Some people are going to want to do a little bit more than others, in a sense that they will sit on their laptop and they'll do the research and they'll send off 10 foils to, 10 different companies and get loads of information and start doing some research. But this, like I say, it starts with it really small, using cash, withdrawing cash very, very frequently, even if it's £10 a day or £10 every other day. Keep withdrawing that cash, keep using cash, opt out of the biometrics, try to avoid using them at the airport. I know that Europe has just kind of rolled that out, that you have to now do a fingerprint, which is another level, because the airports have used for the last several years, maybe longer, the automatic where you scan your passport and it scans your face.
That's right.
That's been in situ for years. So if we can opt out of those things, the better. And certainly you can start with your phone. It's a little bit of resistance. You could obviously, getting a burner phone or getting a separate smartphone to do separate things, separate your activity. Get VPNs and stuff. There's a company called Incogni, which I watch Black Belt Barrister. I'm actually researching it right now, because I don't like recommending things that I haven't actually looked at in full. But if anyone's interested, there's a company called Incogni. Again, I've not done my due diligence. I don't know if it's owned by Israel. All right, that's what I'm trying to find out. But they get rid of your internet footprint. They search the internet for where all of your data is, and they say, right, this is where it is. We found it. Do you want us to delete it? And you can delete yourself entirely from the internet via this company. But they constantly trawl the internet, because obviously databases are adding us. Our data is getting sold all the time, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, all of these. By the way, it's the whole. This is why the digital ID is so scary and threatening, is that they are saying that it's decentralized. Right, they make people feel safe by saying it's decentralized, and you're like, in all, right? But they're trying to say it's decentralized, but it's not. I promise you, it's not. The clever thing about it is they use words that, again, people don't tend to understand. It's like when I was reading the Brit card proposal, and it said it was using the word canonical. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's religious. I'm pretty sure I've come across that word when I was, in Catholic school, and it's basically their sacred list, that they are using this language that makes you go, what? And basically they've got interoperable. So that's one word I think people should learn about, what these things actually mean. And it's basically the different systems and the software. So all of the different vendors, right, private and public bodies. So our government will have their own little sort of, by the way, centralized server on which all your data is held. That's as simply as possible. All of the other companies, whether it be, the NHS, who, by the way, Palantir, with their contract with the NHS. So why can't I think of all these different organizations? So anyone that can ask to see your ID, like the landlords and whatever, they all have these their own sort of systems that are interoperable. So they talk to each other. Yeah. So they and this is where it's like, well, so it's not decentralized then, because you've got a set of rules and tools that connect all these systems together, and you're telling people that it's not centralized. And even then, you've got public servers and private servers. You've got private companies that are saying that they need to hold your information because they need to be interoperable with all of these other, the public bodies, the government, for the driver's license, for the veterans card, for whatever it might be.
And not only that, Fiona, not only that, it will be hackable. Let's be honest. You think your data's safe?
Yep. This is really? It. Your life will be hackable. Not just your digital twin, your life will be hackable. Every single thing that's about you. And you know what? The hacking isn't even the worst thing that I worry about. It's because I know where it's going. Yes, of course it will be hacked. There'll be hackers out there now trying to hack things to prove that they can be hacked, And I think this is where people say, well, it's never going to happen because it can never not be hacked. It can never be completely safe. And it's like, well, that's probably true, but don't think that it's going to be entirely scrapped, because like I say, the infrastructure is there. So to think that, oh, they'll never roll it out because it'll never be completely safe. No, it won't be completely safe. But do they care about safety? Do they really care about safety? You know, no, they
don't care about anybody.
No,
this is an agenda. They're not bothered about you and I. We're just numbers that they need to, to shepherd. Basically, we're just the sheep that they want to shepherd into little areas, and they make money off us, and that's what it's all about, really, at the end of the day. And data, is oil now, isn't it?
We have to see that. This is why people need to, again, the architects page there. This is why people need to see where this plan is coming from. And even though it goes much deeper than what I've added to the website so far, I'm going through organization by organization. Is that the architects or is that the fact vault?
This is the architects.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's the glossary. That's why. So I've put, I think, is that a glossary? Yeah. So as I've gone through these documents, I've come across words and phrases that I felt that, needed to be defined so people could read the documents critically. I've put in that glossary, if you kept going a little bit, I've defined the words of what they officially mean and what they really mean. So people can read, so you can go through and find out what API is, interoperable and trust framework and DVS, and you can find out what all that is. It's there, download it, keep it. But if you scroll down a little bit more, so on Know Thine Enemy, it's not before you click on anything. So all of those buttons there take people on a journey, right? But those organizations. I want to go deeper and further with other groups as well. But again, it's just me. And I like to read everything before I actually, I do like to do my homework. So far I've done Labour Together, Tony Blair Institute, United Nations and World Economic Forum. And that's, as I see it, the layers. So I see Labour Together, the little think tank that kind of sway public policy, and they seed things and they stress test and they test the public response by leaking, proposals and stuff. So Labour Together is really a bit of just a non-issue, apart from the fact the Fabian Society has got a lot to do with that. But then you've got the Tony Blair Institute. He's the front man for the globalists, right? He's just a front man for the globalists. He is a globalist. He's best mates with Klaus Schwab, and he's got a bit of power. Objectively, I suppose, mainstream wise, I don't think he's got power, but he's a demon as far as I'm concerned. So Tony Blair Institute, and then United Nations. There, if you click on the click on United Nations a second, and I'll show you what I mean. So I've done a little overview of what they say they are and what they really are, and then I've gone into, I think that explanation there is a bit small. I'm on my phone, so I can't see it, but it might be about the SDGs. So that top bit, that's the kind of brief overview. And then I go into explaining what they have to do with the current agenda. And obviously the Sustainable Development Goals, specifically SDG 16.9, is a digital or a national identity for all. And that's the first time it was written that they wanted everyone on the planet to have a national identity. So you can see all the links to the documents there, the originals, the translations as to what they really mean, and why those documents are relevant, essentially. So the Pact for the Future, people have been talking about that one, and it's new. It was 2024, I think. But so I've tried to do this, and I've done the same thing for the World Economic Forum, just so people could, like I say, they can arm themselves.
Incredible amount of work, Fiona.
It has been. I said hundreds of hours, but I think it might be more. And I'm there like, oh my gosh, I wrote that. I look at some stuff that because I've been working on this for months, right? And I've been saving, I've been writing documents. I think the first one it's back in June, I think, when I started reading up about this, because I thought digital ID is coming, right? And then I heard of the Brit card proposal, and I was like, it's really ramped up, and I've worked hard to put this together, but people have to understand, because people say, oh no, you haven't covered this particular group, and I'm like, okay, there's only so far right now we can go, and this is where the strategy matters. I want to give people the information, but I don't want to overwhelm them. They need to know who's behind this and where it comes from, and we can dig into the shadowy elites and the NGOs, the other deeper ones, and some well-known ones. Palantir and Oracle. I'm still yet to dive on them, but I'm not going to write things too soon. I share other people's content and say, go here if you want to learn about Palantir and Oracle and BlackRock and Vanguard. You know, there's other people that are experts in that area that I would suggest that people listen to. So I'm going to signpost people on the website, but I do it for myself, but I don't try to speak before I know what I'm talking about. So I really want people right now to see where it's coming from, and we'll unwrap the layers bit by bit, which I think is really important. But this is for the people who are, you know, that are not yet awake, that are sat on the fence, and we can tip them over. This is to reach the masses and say, listen, these are the receipts. You've got it right here. You know that the World Economic Forum said in their Reimagining Digital ID document in 2023, I think it was the first thing I wrote down when I was reading that document. I got to page 18. It was all fluff. It's infuriating that I have to sit there and read it. Yeah, I get really annoyed that I think, oh, why do I actually have to read this? And I'm reading it going, nah, 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 like, whatever, I'm not going to listen to you. Like, it's just like being a belligerent toddler. Do you know what I mean? But page 18, I got to, in the Reimagining Digital ID for World Economic Forum document, and they've done a lot on digital ID because obviously they're behind the UN. The UN's like the humanitarian front cover, like where all the peoples of the world are represented by the leaders. No, you don't represent me. So I think I'm getting a bit delirious now again, I'm a bit tired, but what was I saying about the World Economic Forum? So I found this, what I thought was a bit of a golden nugget, and they've admitted a weakness, and that is that there can never be any meaningful informed consent when it comes to digital ID. So I highlighted that, and I went in, and it was the one thing I wrote down in my notebook on that. And I thought that when we find a chink in their armor, we pull at that thread, because where did, you know, the informed consent issue was obviously relevant all throughout 2020 to 22. Absolutely. So that's when I called Claire Wills-Harrison. I was like, informed consent. We need to tell people what informed consent is, what it means, and why it matters to digital ID. So on the Fact Vault page, again, because Claire, again, she's an amazing contributor. She's a lawyer as well, so she helps me with just, she's a great sounding board, I can't lie. And obviously where we are at the moment, this is why my slightly deeper bit will be talking to Carly Spell, you know. So but for now, when you're analysing this legislation, I think it's just necessary, and we've got to tip the mainstreamers sort of towards us. Well, that's a long explanation I put there. Is that my one login thing? It's
very important, though, for me. For me, jargon and all that, it doesn't enter my head the way my brain works. It just doesn't. So it's great to have this kind of information that's more digestible.
So there we go. That's the PDF there on informed consent. So I've given a bit of an overview on the fact that the World Economic Forum has admitted themselves, as has the UN, to be honest. It's across all the documentation, all the paperwork, that you can never really have true informed consent when you're downloading a piece of technology to your phone and you don't understand what it means and what it does and what it is and who it talks to and how it communicates with other systems and the interoperability of it all. How are you going to educate people on that, so they can, with informed consent, download it onto their phone? So I think it's really important that we pull at some threads, because I feel like they give us, they show us where their weakest link is, you know. And that, for me, informed consent is actually a really big one. Legally, it could be a battle that would stop it. And we're not just stopping the Brit card. We're not just stopping a digital identification and national ID. Digital ID is an all-encompassing. This is when I refer to digital ID, like, what is it? It's everything. It's your entire life on a phone and that on an app, and that's what they want, and that's what they will use to restrict people. The geofencing will play a part in that. You will go to a protest and you'll get punished, so you can't, you know, you'll be restricted on your phone. You know, an alarm might start beeping when you walk into Westminster because you've got an order saying you can't go to Westminster. So all the laws that we have already, we'll see play out on our phones in real time. And one of the worst things about it is, I mean, actually, there's lots of terrible things about it, is that a computer will make decisions. That an algorithm will make a decision about whether to deny or allow, and we will be living in a permission state. And the fact that an algorithm is going to be making decisions automatically, that they're talking about having like appeal options, so you eventually get through to a human. But Anne, you know that won't happen. You know that they'll get to a point where, like, now computer says no, you can't come in, or you can't fly here because you've exceeded your carbon quota. That's exactly what we're facing.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're
And
facing that on regular contact with companies now.
yeah,
On your first line of contact is an AI chatbot now. You can't speak to a human. They're already normalizing that kind of thing, and it's so frustrating. They're going to do it with doctors, aren't they? You know that you're going to have
no,
your
they've done it
AI
for most people.
GP. Yeah.
They've done it for most people, and this is where I call the reception. I go into my doctors. They're like, "Oh, you can do this online." I don't want to do it online. You're not being paid for me to have to do this online. You're here on reception as a human being. Book my blood test. Oh, can you scan the QR code and you do it that way? No, thank you very much. But I think this is where it's really important that, you know, when we do talk about legislation, because I think maybe people think that it doesn't matter that much, or because it's so complicated and they basically write it in code. But the Data Use and Access Act that passed, if anybody really knew the dangers of that prior, because unfortunately the campaign groups sort of talk about things, but it's not presented in such a way that you think it's the most draconian piece of legislation you've ever seen. And you might have thought that about the online harms bill, but the Data Use and Access Act, basically it just strips away all of the privacy that you think that you had. It says it doesn't change GDPR, but it updates it, but it changes how your personal data is shared and recorded, and used and stored over these different platforms. And it introduces the trust framework, which is the canonical record I was talking about, which is that list of trusted vendors that will ask to see your ID. And it's like a code of conduct for them, the trust framework. But the Data Use and Access Act, basically, in very difficult language, says that they can do anything at any time, and they can change that legislation at any time. It's telling us that a computer is going to make a decision about you. An algorithm can make a decision about you without human interaction. So, that's like with benefits. You're applying for your benefits, a border control. If you're trying to, and I don't think border control is just going to be other countries, watch lists, your vaccination status. But within that legislation, they grant powers, so at any time a Secretary of State, which would usually be the for Department of Science, Innovation and Technology, would be the person who could change at any time any aspect of that legislation without parliamentary scrutiny. And so either with a statutory instrument or secondary legislation, but the way that they've written it is so that they would never need to be scrutinized, so they can change the rules anytime they like. They can change the entire act. Essentially can be amended and switched and added to at any time by ministers. And
it's frightening.
I didn't know that was even a thing, and I'll be honest with you, I did not realize. And that's how they brought the Coronavirus Act in, was a statutory instrument under the Public Health Act. But I didn't know, I mean, these delegated powers, I mean, I that's not been mentioned at all in my first year of law studies. I know that we literally scratch the surface, and we talk about primary and secondary legislation, but not basically as a minister having almost, godly power to say, oh, I want to change that now, I want a new rule, and it's the same as the Public Order Act, or what we're contending with, public order and the police, police crime, I never get it the right way around. Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Act 22, with all the powers to basically inhibit, control, or completely stop and thwart protests, because protest works. So they bring in more and more powers. And Shabana, is it Shabana Mahmood? Shabana, Home Secretary, announced the other day, we're going to give more powers now because of the cumulative effect of protests in the same area frequently is very disruptive, and it's offensive, and it can cause alarm and distress. They are adding more and more powers to stop protest, and that just confirms to me, I mean, I did a video earlier on that I'm going to put out tomorrow about the how protest works, and it's very impassioned because I feel passionate about it.
Of course.
But this legislation that we're fighting against, at the end of the day, like, I understand that this is, it's theatre. I get it. We shouldn't even have to deal with having to read this stuff, but People are convicted, arrested, charged and convicted under these acts. We are restricted under these acts. They are taking our rights away under these acts, and we've seen it play out for decades. So whether we like it or not, they're there, and we have to sort of fight against them at the same time as actually, okay, like I said, I've mentioned Carly Spell a couple of times. You know how desperate I am to have a conversation with her, because she's the first person in 5.5 years that's presented to me about the realm of England and all this stuff and the legalese as she has done. She's the only person I thought I'm going to listen to you. We're going to talk about this, and we're going to educate and empower with that information. But we are still dealing with what we're dealing with. And as much as, you know, I've been arrested and I've been on a watch list. I've been arrested under the Public Order Act. I've been arrested under the Coronavirus Act, but obviously, you know, convicted and charged under the public health regulations. So it's there, it's convicted me. So when we say it doesn't matter, or if people have that perception that when they say mandatory, it's not law, it's like, no, but it will be. You know, it will be. And when you can see the destination, you can see the journey. So regardless of how this happens, if they pull the Brit card and they offer all these alternatives like leaving the ECHR, regardless of how it happens, they will implement digital ID because they need to achieve their SDGs, but we won't let them. So that's why we need to raise the awareness and educate. They need digital ID to get their total control of every person on this planet, because it's for everyone. Like I said, it doesn't matter how you vote, what color your skin is, what God you pray to. Digital ID is coming for everyone. Different phases. And remember what it was like for us in the early days of 2020. We are a test bed. We're seen as the compliant peoples, I think, of the UK, especially English people. Like we are very, you know, we queue and we do this. And I've listened to some people who speak about various countries in Asia, like Korea, Japan, China, that wear face masks. And it, again, knowing full well, doesn't stop viruses if they exist, which I don't think they do. Doesn't anyway, like given the alleged particle size, particular matter. But it's the same like with smoke from fumes and stuff. It doesn't do anything. So why are they doing it? Why are they masking? It's because they've been told, and they are very polite, well-mannered, obedient peoples in general as well, especially in Japan. They're extremely polite and they follow rules. And even when they're queuing for trains, they stand between two painted lines by the door, not a big rush of people around the whole door. It's a thin line of single file because of paint on the ground. When a you know, metro, a tube, whatever they call it over there, pulls up, because I've been to Tokyo a few times, and they're all queuing in the line. There's no wall. But so we're a test bed. Australia they're rolling out the same thing under the guise of, you know, combating fraud. Here at first it was mass illegal migration, a problem they've engineered and offered the solution, you know, because they got the reaction that they wanted. So this is where we're at, and we can win.
This is why the rebel resources area is pretty important as well. And I was just thinking as well, I've got a Patreon member who said that, because we were talking, we had a Zoom meeting the other day, and we had a good chat about. It's like we do it once a month, where it's a bit of a get together online, if you like, just to support each other on the madness of the world. But she mentioned about the fact that, you know, we were talking about flooding, and I think Claire Wills Harrison's mentioned this as well, about kind of flooding the paper version ways of doing things, you know, going to the post office and doing it that way. And we should all be kind of pushing our way through that way. But she had a great idea, saying all the people protesting on Saturday should write to London, or whoever you write to, about the CCTV and claim your data back.
Oh my gosh, that's absolutely brilliant. I've got another idea for London I haven't put out yet, and time is getting closer, but I bought something and I thought it'd be a really good idea to send a message, because, you know, I like to send a message, and I think that's a really, really good idea, that every single one of them, and we'll do the draft, anyone that went to the protest, because there's been facial recognition, by the way, around Westminster for years, especially outside Number 10 and in Parliament Square. They've got the camera that's called the Greenleaf, right outside Number 10. It's what's got me. Got the little square around my face, and that's that. You know, I've listened to the radio like recordings. I've listened. I've read the CAD notes where they've, you know, the conversation of what's being said of the radio is recorded, and it's like, oh, that's that long black-haired girl. She's that anti-vaxxer. That's her name. Oh, yep. Just looked. It's Fiona Rose Diamond, and you can see like where I'm running around right outside Number 10 with my little protest, and that they're having this conversation, figuring out who I am, saying, "Yep, right, move in now." And it's like, so they've had this technology for a long time. So I actually think that would be a really good idea, and I'm actually going to write it down.
Well, there you go. Well done, Ruth. I'll just name drop Ruth. Who'll watch this.
Ruth, fucking brilliant. So right, no, this is the thing. Right to request copies of CCTV, and I'm going to have to look at the specific cameras actually, what we might be passing, because you know I don't, nothing's
exactly
sort of public. So I don't want any nonsense, but from you know, the
well, we know
powers that be trying to shut it down, which they have, but you know, we roll with it. It means it's important, but and that's why I know that protests work. So I think that's a really good idea that Ruth has had. It is a very I'm just going to make it specific because I can't understand my own note at the moment. Like, but I think, you know, there's a template letter for Companies House on there as well for people to ask about how their information is going to be shared. That's on the Fact Vault. You're currently on the Rebel Resources. There's my leaflet that I did. Well, you know how long that took me. I was like, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but I describe above that leaflet who it's for. You know, this is to, I don't know if you can, well, I don't have to read it out, but obviously I explain that it's for people that aren't really awake to what's going on. So that's why I explain what digital ID is, you know, why we should resist it, kind of in bullet points, actions you can take today. I thought it was quite a jazzy leaflet anyway.
It's fantastic. But this is the thing. This is where it's important that we are getting this out to the communities. I think you've got an area for stickers as well, haven't you? So there
are stickers there.
You know, that was very powerful, I found, in 2020. Very powerful.
I really want people to do it. It's just the sticker designer can't print them all the time. So if you scroll down, yesterday I added there's a file there that people can download, that whole file, which gives them that file, the little where it says download. They can download all of the stickers because there's more stickers, and by themselves either send them off to a printer to create the stickers, or buy your own brother. I think QL something, I don't know what it is, I'm not going to say it because
I've seen it down here.
So QL that series, Double Decker did that for me as instructions. People can, like, you know, the whole white rose thing. So I hope that people get the stickers again. I've linked someone else who's providing stickers there, but I've heard at the moment people might not get their stickers in time for the 18th. So he's saying that he's going to meet people there if they order these particular, the blue ones there, you might have to email and then say, and meet him on the day of the 18th to get your stickers, if that's what you want him for. And then obviously the infographics, they're from the UK Freedom Project. So very grateful for them. For providing them. And this is the thing as well, lots of people have done lots of great work. I'm not going to duplicate stuff that I think, well, that works, that's absolutely correct, and that's, you know, that information needs to be out there so people can download these and share them on social media. I'll start sharing them, I think, because this continues after the 18th. There's so much content to put out on social media and say that this is here. But people want bite size, and then I think up to Big Brother watches. You know, I've credited them, but I just think it's really good and really simple. And it's again scratching the surface, because Big Brother Watch doesn't. You know, they're not talking about the globalist plan. They are talking about, this is Tony Blair's plan. It's not Tony Blair's plan. You know.
He's just a front man, but this,
he's a front man.
That's really important, though. That part, the mission creep's very important, because people think that, though, this will just be this, but it never is just this. It always is a mission creep.
But mission creep started. Mission creep's been going on for decades, but really with this issue with one login in 2021, and I think this is why there's an explanation there somewhere. I can't remember. I think it might be on Fact Vault. about one login specifically, that again, I'll encourage people to read, because I'm like, you know, I'm speaking to you now and I could go through everything that's on there, but I think that I want people to use that resource and go and read and watch the films that are on, you know, the agenda as well. There's a page called The Agenda.
It's a great film.
It's an amazing film, and I tell you get really good overview, and that's kind of where I'm at, because I know, you know, Phil Wiseman and Mark Sharman made that film. I know Phil really well, and I know that they want to educate people. They're not necessarily aiming it at people who already know, who are already awake. Guys, you're awake. Okay, we don't run these campaigns. It's you guys that need to be the conduits and go out and share the information that's here with the masses to change public perception. But it's not for people who are already awake that really truly know what's going on, because there's lots of people that say, oh, you need to put this on the website, you need to put that on the website. And to be quite honest, I go far enough right now. We need to bed people in like we did with the COVID jab injuries, because I did not say crimes against humanity and genocide with truth be told in the first month. It came on the second one. So, and that's when we had more support, more backing, and then toxic by design. So in the first month of that campaign, it was incredible, but we were very careful. I was very careful, because it was me, myself, and I, about the language that I used, because I was trying to onboard the masses. You know, I was trying to get them on side, and then you educate them more, and you finally tell them, by the way, the jabs were toxic by design. And, you know, there wasn't really a medical pandemic. In whatever way you look at that, whether you believe in COVID or not, and personally I don't, whatever way you look at it, there was no real medical pandemic. At all.
Yeah, that's right.
It just wasn't. The data's just, no one can say anything that there was this. No. The numbers aren't there. They were never there. I looked at the data from every day for 9 months before I got very, very bored of looking at ONS stats and the NHS stats and all the stats. And I was like, it's not there. It's not there. The only peak throughout the entire time was in April to May 2020, when they were using midazolam. And then in January 2021, after the jabs were rolled out.
I know.
And I dread to think now they've stopped using 5-year comparables. They have stopped producing vaccine harms or COVID jab harms information. They've made it impossible to find now. It's a ridiculous Excel spreadsheet. It's buried on the MHRA. The MHRA. So they're hiding the information, because I guarantee now there's going to be a lot more people that are dying suddenly.
I know.
Than have, you know.
It's so tragic, but we carry on, and you've done amazing work for the, you know, I think, you know, people don't realize the amount of work you did for the people that were harmed during that time as well. You know, it's I am amazed how much energy you actually have, especially I know.
So am
I know the attacks that you get as well, you know, and it's not easy to do, even when you get the odd negative comment, never mind the horrendous attacks that you faced. Where do you think you get your fire from? Where does that come from, do you think?
From my mama. No, I a little bit. I think, look, I know how bad life can be when you don't want to live it anymore. And, you know, I've never really, I've appreciated my life and the blessing of life so much more since, you know, I tried to take my life in 2022. I was so glad that didn't work, because it could have done. But when you are faced with the hate I think I've had it worse than most people. I know that there's a couple of other individuals, but everyone comes up to me and says, you've had it the worst. And I'm like, yeah, there's a couple of other people who've had it bad. Like, no, you've had it. They see it, because I don't look now, right? And I didn't look for 3 years. The day I decided to get sober over 3 years ago, I decided I'm not looking ever again. It's not in my reality. They are nothing to me at all. They're not doers. They're not doing anything. They're not contributing. They are dedicating their lives to hating and trolling me and calling me a man and saying the most nasty things about me, telling lies, reading selective screenshots and WhatsApps from messages that we exchanged 5 years ago. Like, I watched some of this stuff recently and I did respond to that one particular person because I think she's pure evil. I'm sorry. And the whole, everyone's entitled to their opinions, freedom of speech. No, there is pure evil in that dark-hearted person. And whether she can, all people can say whatever they want about no one's got power over anyone else. Words have power. Don't we? I think we can acknowledge on a deeper level that words have power, and words and the bullying and it massively hurt me. But I've been through some stuff in my life. I'm a tough cookie anyway from old. Like I've dealt with the police before all this kicked off. I've never liked authority. My mum was a feisty kind of woman and she's very intelligent. And I do get a lot of my sort of traits and passion from her. She always questioned authority. She was, I've definitely followed in her footsteps. But like now, she says to me, she's like, I can't believe like what you're doing. What keeps me going is the fact that I know it's the right fight. Like it's for humanity. It is complete self-sacrifice, completely. It's and I don't know, it's like an innate knowing that I'm doing the right thing that keeps me going. But the people that hate are like at the end of the day, when they mention your name, it gives them a bit of clout because they've got nothing else to do, nothing else to talk about. Sorry, it's like, can you just crack on with doing whatever it is that you're doing? But some people have ridden the fame of the lockdown, like the COVID fame wave from 2020, and then everyone kind of went back to normal. So all they had to do was to be able to talk about other people, and it has been horrific at times. It has affected me really, really badly. But I've got more strength in me now than I've ever had before. Being sober obviously has massively helped, but I think a couple of people said to me when I was at your thing in Birmingham, like, oh, just ignore it. Don't ever give me advice. This is my attitude now. Don't ever, and I'm fucking serious. Don't ever come up to me and tell me what to do and how to deal with things, because I have worked harder than most people. When people talk about the inner work and whatever, I have endured early in life as well, more than anyone knows. So when people come to me and say, don't do this and don't do that and just did a, I understand that most people are coming from a really good, caring place, but actually some people aren't. Some people think that they know better and they just want to give some advice to me because of whatever reason. They know that I don't take advice. They think, I don't know, telling me what to do makes some people feel really good. But don't give me advice. Like, and not you, because I speak to you and you know me. So I know that the things that you say to me, you say from genuine care through knowledge and experience of what I've gone through. You're not ignorant of what I've gone through. And when people come to me and tell me not to do this, I kept my mouth shut for 3 years. All the attacks, shut my mouth for 3 years. And it wasn't just that person that attacked me. There was someone that was in, truth be told, allegedly vaccine injured, who was also horrific, that I tolerated, and I shut my mouth because I was convinced by other people, oh, don't do it, the campaign will suffer, and we don't need the drama. I don't care, because from this, well, not even from this day, about a month ago, is it, whenever I've decided that's it, I'm saying something, I will always defend myself when I feel like I need to defend myself, because I've suffered relentless attacks. I don't deserve the things that are said about me, the dedication that some people take to just share videos of me drunk from 4.5 years ago. It's so low. It's so low because I was clearly upset. I was clearly hurt. I was clearly going through a lot of stuff. And to use that against someone is actually quite sick. I think it's sick.
No, I agree.
But yeah, people giving me advice and saying, oh, don't tell me to rise up. I'm not. My dignity has got nothing to do with how much shit I will take from someone, how many lies I will endure, how much hate and trolling I will endure. I'm just not in the mood for it. But one of the worst things is, and I think this is what I have to prepare for before these rallies, is that in person, is knowing that there's people that love to come up to me in person and to try and make a point. And usually I'd just kind of ignore it, stay on my megaphone, keep shouting while there's a hater, no, Fiona Rose Diamond, all this stuff, like trying to just get on with it, trying to just lead the rally, trying to do what I do without, being arrested, because I might get arrested for blocking a highway because I don't seek permission or do all the whatever people accuse me of doing. It's really hard. And I know that might happen. And the worst thing is the people that come to the front of the rally that hate me, They don't like me at all. They'll come up there like they'd never do it, first of all, to a man, right? Because it's me and my right-hand woman, Cheska. They'd never do it to a man. They'd never go up to another dude that was on the megaphone at the front that had organised it and try and hijack it and take it over. It's always men and boys that do it. And they come to the front and they do their, little hijack, whatever they want to do, and try and get a little bit of clout and grandstand off the back of something that I've worked so hard on. And I just used to let it fly and let it go, but not anymore, because one of those people that will inevitably do that is someone that celebrated my would-be death when I was in hospital in September of 2022. So I'll be damned if the person that was celebrating Diamond is dead on Instagram when I was in hospital, I'll be damned if he gets to grandstand and clout chase and try and hijack my rally.
No.
Or my protest. It's not happening, Anne. So there's another lesson learned. You don't have to take shit, obviously the way that you deal with it, but do you know how much better I feel having actually spoken and said, this is disgusting. Obviously I've driven a bit of attention that way to a hater, but I put on the inside, I was tortured. I was crying myself to sleep because I was self-censoring for the benefit of other people and for the sake of false harmony, because it's always put on me. I'm always expected to go and stand next to someone who's celebrated my would-be death, or someone who's done nothing but bitch about me and slag me off, who tells everybody else, oh, we're just trying to help her. We're just trying to help her. No, you're not. It's just, it's clout. It's grandstanding, and you hate me and you don't like me. So why, go away.
But anyway, these people need to realize, this gains nothing. Being a troll, being a twat, it gains nothing.
But it does for them.
Now.
It does.
They need to let go of their ego. It's pathetic.
But I think some people it's ego, and some people I think they're being paid to do what they do because they're relentless and they're malicious.
Oh, yeah. That does happen.
Yeah, I don't think they're all just genuine people that have got a chip on their shoulder or who have an ego, who are jealous. I think some of them are genuinely paid actors to do what they do and cause divide and hate and spread doubt, especially around when I'm actually doing something. It's when it always ramps up and I have to deal with it. But for people to say, they don't get to speak and do what they do, and then me, I just stay mute because lots of other people expect me to just tolerate it. And if they knew the pain that I sat in, and crying yourself to sleep when you feel completely powerless because you care about the unity in the movement and you don't want to be seen to be divisive, but you can't stick up for yourself, so you let the lies spread. It's torture. And that's not something that anybody should have to endure. People should be able to defend themselves or speak up for themselves, especially when we're banging on all the time about freedom of speech. And when people expect me to be silent, but they're framing it because it works for them. Like, it works out better for them if I pretend like that doesn't happen. Because, but what I've seen, let's end on a positive, right? Because my phone battery is going down bit by bit, but is the unity, is the support that I have seen. So all of that aside, I'm just dealing with that differently, and I will speak when I want to speak, and I will behave how I want to behave, because I'm not trying to get votes, I'm not trying to get approval. So I don't care what anyone's perception of me is or what they think of my behavior. I am a person, I am fighting for humanity, and I'm doing everything because I have the heart and the care and the love for it. That's it. And I want my little sisters.
I love that. I love that. And that passion and that drive, because you're doing more to help my kids than most people I come across, Fiona, because this shit's coming. It's here. Yeah. And your energy and your drive is what's taking it to the streets and educating people. Yeah. And I hope, honestly, there's amazing other groups that are doing things as well. And one positive, because I haven't seen any, like, the nastiness and stuff. You see little shit all over the place sometimes, but what I'm seeing on social media when I'm looking is all these groups and individuals that wouldn't usually support each other or promote each other's events actually doing it. Now, I know I'm doing it. I'm sharing and supporting other groups, and people are going, yeah, that's what we like to see. Like, we're supporting all the action across the UK, whether you like them or not, agree with their methods or not. If they're doing something, support them. And I'm feeling that support, and I'm seeing that support, and I'm giving that support. And I think at the moment, there's groups I wouldn't usually like, not groups, sorry. There might be two individuals involved in,
10 of the events that are going on across the UK over the next couple of months, right, that I might be like, oh God, they were horrible to me once and I know they don't like me and I think this about them. I don't care. I'm sharing that person's rally. I'm sharing that person's outreach and their protest, because they are acting and they're doing something. And the more action on the streets, the better. And the 18th is just the beginning. And this website, like I said, I've said to lots of people, it's not even done. Like I would say I'm maybe about, oh gosh, I don't even know if I can say 80% there, but there's so much to learn. And this is why when I announced it, I said to people, there's so much more to come. There's so much more to come. And there's so much that we need to educate people on, but we've got to discard those labels and get out on the street on the 18th, because it's going to be, hopefully it's going to be epic.
Well, thank
and
you,
I hope that,
Fiona.
Yeah.
For everything that you've been doing over these past few years, and thank you for what you're doing now. This is so crucial that we all get involved in this now. And if you can get to London on the 18th, I'll be there with Fiona. I'm very much looking forward to standing by your side on this one.
Oh, you are? Yeah, I'm not going to say, I nearly give stuff away because I'm not, I've got, I've got little tricks.
Don't give anything away.
No, I know, but it's really hard. This is why people don't understand that I don't put the route out there for a reason. I don't put things out there publicly for like a reason. It's not because I don't want people to know. There's other things, but it's super exciting. So yeah, thank you. I'm going to let you finish, and thank you.
No, it's been an honour to have you on. I've been wanting to get you on the podcast for quite some time, so this is perfect timing. I'll see you on Saturday.
Yeah,
looking forward to it. So 1 p.m. everybody, Marble Arch, London. Come along, support the cause, and let's educate people. Talk to strangers, get the stickers printed, get the flyers printed, get it around. Let's just educate people on the pitfalls of what this is all about, because this is not about an identification card. This is control and enslavement. Sorry to say, but this is exactly what it is. Fiona,
but we will win.
Well, we're not here. We're not here to lose.
No, but I want people to know. I am insanely optimistic about this. 100% I am, and I know we will win. And I know what they're going to throw at us, and the little tricks they'll use, and then little mini celebrations people will have because they misunderstand. They think, oh, it's okay, we fought it now. No, we will win this war ultimately, and we will certainly win this battle. And there'll be another fight, but we will keep pushing back, because we are humanity versus tyranny, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters.
And that's a perfect way to end it. Fiona, thank you so much for your time. I'll
see
you on Saturday.
And to your listeners.